Director Marketing and Product Planning, India Operations with General Motors India. He has about 15 years of experience in the automotive industry. He is responsible for brand strategy development, global brand graphics, and CI standard implementation. He is also responsible for developing marketing strategy for 200 plus retail outlets, developing consumer touchpoint experiential marketing solutions. He leads the media buying strategy for advertising and communication. Mr. Saurabh Wats.
Pastries to now cars, and Raghavendra will just speak about fashion design and clothing. I think it's going to be a very interesting session for you guys today in the morning. Thank you for inviting me here, and I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about luxury marketing with reference to cars. And with reference to cars, I think you can go all the way from where Chevy is in India, right up to a BMW, Mercedes, Audi, Lamborghini, Porsche, you name it, and you can keep going up the ladder. What I've done is I've tried to keep it fairly interactive, because I know, all of you remind me of my MBA days in my MBA school, and I know you will have a lot of questions. So what I've got here is an interactive presentation for you guys. Feel free to stop me in between. Don't keep all your questions right for the end, and ask me whatever you think is relevant for you guys. I'm going to talk about marketing through a vehicle called the Chevy Cruze. The Cruze is available in India, and we've been marketing it in India since October 2009. It's undergone a couple of changes from the time it was launched in October 2009 to where it is today. And I'm going to take you through with a reference of this car. So, couple of points that Dr. Jody discussed with me. I've tried to weave them in this presentation. This presentation is a pretty quickly done presentation, because we launched a new car on Friday, which is called the Chevy Sail. And those of you who saw the Times of India today would have seen the ad on that. So, pardon my formatting. I've tried to keep my spellings in order, but I'll take you through it. It's very visual, so it's going to talk to you through a visual brand language. Okay. And I'm wanting to make a point to you through some pictures that I'm going to show you. When we launched the car in 2009, this was the launch shot, and along with that, there's something which is very subliminally put here. Do you understand subliminal messaging? With that subliminally, what we've got here in the background are two cars, one on the left and the right, and you can see. Can anybody identify which those cars are?
Maybach?
Maybach is Mercedes. I won't use it in a Chevy Camper.
Cadillac.
Come again?
Cadillac.
That's right. It's a Cadillac. Now, Cadillac's a premium brand from the house of General Motors. And in the background are two caddies, black caddies here. And this is very, very interesting use of subliminal messaging in trying to position a new car with reference to context without branding elements on it. And as you could identify, these two cars are caddies here. And this was the launch messaging. Now, just look at the way we put the headline here, the brand line here, which says choose to cruise. All the specs of the car are in here. So we're not really focusing on the specs of the car. That's on the side, but the messaging is right in the face. When we move to the second ad was all about interiors. Okay? This was the second launch communication ad. These came out in half-page formats for the consumers to see. And it says, bust a move. Now, you can see that interestingly, this car is developing a brand language of its own. Very visual, with just 1, 2, or 3 word messaging on it. And all detailing is gone. If you look at the detailing, it's very, very sharp, focused, and very small. So you're not focusing on, oh, we've got truckload of features in the car, it comes in 7 colors, it comes at this price, it starts at this price, it's got 7 variants, nothing, none of that. This is the third ad which came out which says respect. Now, the visual language that we're trying to develop here is, you've got a mouth-watering looking car, it's very sexy in its angles, it's got just the right appeal, the background is all fairly upmarket, and it is continuing to build up something called what? Impact. Okay? Now, what we're trying to do here is
don't clutter it. We're removing all the clutter from this. And anybody who wants to see it, I can later on show you some references of how clutter can be created in vehicles which are fairly mass in terms of their communication, and we do create clutter there. This vehicle won 5 awards the minute it was launched. It was launched in October 2009, December 2009 it won 5 awards. From a Viewer's Choice Award to a Sizzle Car of the Year to Midsize Sedan, Executive Car of the Year and Value for Money car, it won 5 awards straight away. And again, we've kept the brand language very, very similar, impactful. A nice shot of the car, heavy Chevy, which is essentially referring to the awards that it has won. And then after that, as we moved the year, we said, can we show the interiors of the car, because this car is really, really, really safe. You can actually feel it when you drive it, okay? And while designing it, of course, a lot of design intent has gone behind the safety of the car. But normally when you talk about safety of the car, it becomes very difficult to showcase the safety of the car in a print communication, okay? On this car, we haven't made a television film till this year. So from October 2009 till 2012, we haven't got a television film for this. So a lot of people who believe that a lot of cars or premium goods need to be marketed with televisions, well, no, you don't really need it, and this car is a proof of that. So what we did was we assembled the car without the skin of the car, okay? So we turned something which can be very steely, very cold, into something which looked like an object of desire. And we didn't have to do this through actually making a car. We relied on computer graphic imaging, which is something which is, for those who are getting into marketing in India, it's something which is pretty interesting today. You don't need to shoot products. If you've got just the right wireframes for the products, you can actually create any kind of mood, any kind of depiction using computer graphic imaging, and this is exactly what it is. So we showed the insides of the car, and we call it, and we gave it the term rock solid. And these were simple little terms that when you go to the channel, when you start selling the car, when somebody, that sales consultant who's going to sell the car, has to give it to the consumer, he doesn't have to explain too much. He uses this and 3 or 4 key significant features around the car on safety. So it becomes that much more simpler for people to understand while you're conveying your message visually. And then we got the automatic in after some time. So when we got the automatic in after some time, we said we will call it the hands-off. And now, with all this language that is developing, you can clearly understand it's targeting a certain segment in the market. It's not speaking a universal language which has got mass appeal. It's not got a language which is esoteric. It's got a language which is very, very specific to a certain target audience, and that's exactly what we're developing with every new communication which is going out in the market, okay? And in fact, Mallika referred to packaging. Now, this is something for us, packaging is our products themselves. So we don't wait for the stores to, pull in people and then see the packaging. Our packaging is on the streets. So how you package, how you communicate, because we need to communicate cars. So when you communicate cars and you put them on the street, they have to speak the same language. And then came in another interesting messaging, and this was called diesel rocket. Now, this car comes only in diesel, okay? It's only got a diesel engine. It doesn't come with a petrol engine in India. Diesel engine in India is considered to be a slightly dirtier fuel than a petrol engine sibling of the same car. This car came in with 150 bhp on tap, and 150 bhp on tap in October 2009 till almost in 2012 was the most powerful car in its category, okay? So you have to convey 2 messages. The car is premium, the car comes in diesel, because a lot of people still wanted diesel. In fact, a lot of people who buy a Mercedes or an Audi in India prefer diesel engines because the cost of running of the cars is lower. So they still go for the badge, but they still want a car which is efficient and gives them a low running cost. So we wanted to communicate diesel messaging. It's powerful and it's premium. So what did we do? We did not add too much of clutter again to communicate the same. We got the caddies back on it. We got the cruise in its original avatar. We got the diesel rocket, and the diesel rocket as a term suddenly took off with the consumers because it became a language. So it became a language on the Facebook, it became a language in the digital medium, it became a language at the showroom, it became a language with the consumers because everybody started saying, I've got a diesel rocket. You know, so that's how you started giving them a language that they could use to describe their own car and feel proud about it. This car actually participates in what's called the World Touring Car Championship. Okay. The World Touring Car Championship happens across 12 cities in different parts of the world every year. It starts in February and finishes off in November. If you see this car has been winning the World Touring Car Championship for the last 3 years straight. And you know the cars it beats? It beats a car called the BMW. So that's serious pedigree. Now, when you are relating a certain car which has got a certain language and an appearance and an imagery in a certain market, you are also trying to subliminally say, without saying it, very, very loud and clear, that here I am and I can whip and beat another premium car in the market, which is called the BMW 3 Series. Now, you're not comparing it with the BMW 3 Series in this ad. This ad is essentially talking about the win points of this car. Okay? Now this car actually has been racing in WTCC for now almost 3 years in this format. Earlier Cruise, the Optra used to race. The BMW 3 Series has been put behind by this car for consistently 3 years. They haven't even been able to come close to this car. And when we did this ad, we said Auf Wiedersehen, which is essentially in German it says goodbye. And that was goodbye to competition. Okay? So, and then we said right after that, that the cars we race on the track are the cars you buy. Now, that was the message that we wanted to take out to the people, which is essentially, we were wanting to tell people that you drive a very, very powerful car in a very, very sober attire. And this is that car which you drive on the racetracks, and that's the car that you own, and we said Action Heroes. Now, what I'm trying to share with you here is a brand language that is developing. I'm sharing the intent with which each of these communication messages went out. But these messages, the way they went out with the headlines and the pictures, they are saying the same thing that I'm explaining to you in 2 words. Okay? This was, now here I want to share something that we didn't do right. Normally, manufacturers don't tell you what they didn't do right. I'm telling you what we didn't do right. Okay? And that's because you should understand what's important. Now, you saw that we developed a brand language for the vehicle. Okay? 2 words, at best 3 words. Okay? Now see what we've done here. We said phenomenal bang for your buck. The look and feel, the texture of advertising continues to stay the same. Okay? But what's gone wrong here? Can somebody tell me? Come again? There's a bigger sentence here. Font size. Okay. I'm really pleased you guys are picking up these things so quickly. What else? There's something fundamentally we've screwed up here. Language.
So it's talking about the money?
Money.
The segment, and somebody said the money. You said the money. This car for 1.5 years had never spoken about value for money. Okay? And that's exactly what we put in here and screwed up. We should have never done it. And why did we do that? Because Oberoi, which is a very, very important magazine in the country, actually came out with this line and said, phenomenal bang for your buck, and everybody believed that that's a message that must go out to the consumers. Now, these are the things you must understand, that a short-term gain on a premium product that you're trying to establish in a market, or you're doing very well with it, a small thing that you do like this in the same look and feel and texture can actually just kind of damage your positioning. Okay? Quickly we withdrew from there and we went to this. And here we are saying cruise mode. We are using the same brand name, which is cruise, in terms of advertising message, and essentially it is talking about the cruise automatic and the cruise together, and we went back to the same mode. So it's always important that you're consciously trying to figure out what your messaging is at any given point in time. You've got to be very sensitive to it. It's almost like as sensitive to as speaking to each other, and you keep looking at somebody's eyes and ears and trying to figure out what's the expression on the face, and that's exactly what you do when you're marketing. You've got to gauge your consumer's reaction so quickly that if there's something which is not going right, you've got to quickly withdraw it and come back and correct it. And that's what is important. All this helped us do one big thing. We suddenly, when we did a research on the brand, we figured out that we had 55% advocates for the brand. 55% advocates for the brand who were highly satisfied and loyal and who were helping us convert more and more sales. Those were the people who were actually taking our message out back to the consumers without us having to advertise. And that is something extremely important. When you develop a uniform language for premium products, you don't need to advertise again and again and again and again. This is one car in our portfolio which has got perhaps the lowest spend per unit. It's one of the most premium car lines in the portfolio. As one would believe, one would spend a lot on this, but no, we don't. We don't have to any longer because our consumers, our owners, are talking about it and they're taking it to the next level of getting us referral sales.
What about the rebels?
26% rebels? Oh, you will always have rebels. Regardless of the category that you have, you will never have a category where you have 100% satisfied owners for everything that you have. So when you have rebels, what happens is that you will look at what the issues are. Okay? You don't ignore them. When you have a 26%, which is almost 1/4 of your customers are rebels, you want to know what's going wrong. When we spoke to our 26% of these people, they gave us one feedback. They said, when you call this a diesel rocket, you've given us 150 bhp on the tab. Premium positioning, we can talk about it. We are very proud to own it. But there is something called a turbo lag on this engine. Okay? For those of you who understand turbo lag, it's very clear. For those of you who don't understand turbo lag means that when you step on the gas on a diesel engine, by the time the turbo cuts in and gives you additional boost of power, there is a 1 or 2 or 3 second gap. So people were getting that perceptible to this car that they could perceive that lag. Okay? These people were not happy. These people said, give us something which doesn't have this. And we did not have something that we could give them right away. Okay? So these people said, oh, I don't need the car. I don't want this car. I'll shift to another car. I'll buy another car. I'll never recommend this car. Now, with this, I'm going to take you through what happens and in terms of the change in strategy, in terms of product, and that's why the next section. So you actually asking me to lead into my next question, the next section. So it made a good start in a tough premium sedan segment of cars. But what's next? What do you do with it? Advertising message was